chaos. A lot of bullshit.
Donald Trump.
This card had a little bit of everything. Hello, everybody. Welcome back, podcast fam. This is Aaron J. at Beat 'em to the Punch. Today we're going to be talking about a little bit of UFC 266, Brian Ortega versus Alexander Volkanovski. So right off the bat, Jason, what are your thoughts on this fight? Who do you think will win between Alex Volkanovski, Brian Ortega? Let's lay it all on the table, baby. Let's go.
Well, I definitely am cheering for Brian Ortega, but unfortunately, I think this is a really tough matchup for him against Alexander Volkanovski.
Yeah.
Based off of Volkanovski's fights with Holloway, he's technically, he looks very sound. He's a really strong guy coming into this fight. And Ortega's a little bit taller, probably a little bit more reach.
Yep. Both of those, yeah.
Maybe a little bit better jiu-jitsu, you'd think.
Definitely better jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
I mean, but to counter that, obviously Ortega, if he actually gets Volk on the ground, he has the advantage there for sure. But Volkanovski has really strong wrestling, right? So the issue is getting the fight to the ground for Ortega, I feel like.
Yeah. Plus Volk's he's short and he's built. So,
short and stout, yeah.
Yeah, makes it even tougher. So that's what I'm saying. I think Volkanovski's favorited, right?
Yeah, he's actually just a slight favorite. I believe it's minus 120 favorite, I believe. So it's pretty marginal, but
okay. If I had to bet, if I had to put money on it, I'd probably put money on Volkanovski. But like I said, I want Ortega to win. I'm hoping, because basically what I'm saying is so we saw Volkanovski had those really close fights with Holloway, right?
Yeah.
And then we saw when Holloway fought Ortega, Holloway beat the crap out of him, right?
Yeah.
So I know that there's more to it than just that, but based off that, it looks like Volkanovski would beat Ortega, but I'm hoping Ortega has gotten better. He went away, he took his time off, so I'm hoping he's increased his skill set and all that enough that he can come in here and actually beat Volkanovski and get that title.
Well, the narrative's interesting, right? Because like you said, obviously Holloway against Ortega, Holloway absolutely whooped Ortega for 5 rounds or however many that went. I think it went all 5.
I think it was 5 rounds of absolute
yeah, he slaughtered him. But yeah. I mean, after that, to be fair too, after that, Ortega left for he took a full 2 years off, and at that point we've kind of thought of him as almost I'm not gonna say a fully one-dimensional fighter, because he did have some knockouts. He had a crazy knockout against Frankie Edgar, but he obviously focused really strongly on his grappling. And when he came back against Korean Zombie, that wasn't the case. He actually outstruck Korean Zombie, and Korean Zombie's a vet. He's been top 5 in featherweight for a very long time, and Ortega actually just went in there and outstruck him after 2 years. So my hope is, as an Ortega fan, I hope that it's been about a year since he fought Korean Zombie. I hope in that year he could have progressed potentially even more with regards to his striking. So he's going to look a lot better even than he did back then, because I feel obviously to fight Volk, you need to have strong striking. He can't just rely on his ground game, obviously.
And that's the thing. He definitely, after that fight with Holloway, went and worked on his striking a whole bunch, and that
he changed his whole camp actually.
Yeah.
So prior to then, he was at a different camp. Obviously jiu-jitsu, really high level. He's training with Renner Gracie. But after that, he actually went to Huntington Beach Ultimate Training Center. So he's training with guys he's training with TJ Dillashaw. Okay. He's training with Juan Archuleta, and he's training with a Cub Swanson too. So obviously Cub's a vet. Juan Archuleta, he's a really high-end Bellator guy. And TJ, what can you say about TJ? He kind of does a bit of everything. So those are great guys for Ortega to be around.
100%. Yeah, so I guess this fight will show. It will show how much his striking has really improved, and we'll see what he's got. I'm hoping he wins.
Me too. And like you said, for these fights, when you favor someone as much as I do, Ortega's one of my favorite fighters, you kind of have to try and be as unbiased as you possibly can be when you think about who's going to win. And unfortunately, I'm kind of favoring Volkanovski to win. I just think, I mean, all those things we set aside, when you look at the way Holloway fought him and beat him up, and really, you know, Holloway, he pushes the pace. He's like a high action fighter, a high tempo fighter. He throws a lot of strikes, and that's pretty similar to what Volk does, right? Volk, he really puts on the pressure. He's gassing it the whole way, right? He's going to throw like a lot of strikes. And what's different about that versus Korean Zombie, Korean Zombie, he doesn't throw all that many strikes, right? So he's kind of like a low-pace fighter. He sets stuff up, he counters, and he gave Ortega a lot of time to work. And I think that really worked to Ortega's benefit because he had time to like back up and like think about what he was going to do. And I mean, don't get me wrong, he was throwing some beautiful stuff like that spinning counter elbow that knocked him down. Beautiful. But the thing is with Volk's going to be up in his face the whole fight, and he's just not going to have that time to think. So that's what does it for me.
Yeah, Volk's definitely going to push the pace way more than Korean Zombie does, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, that'll be a really interesting fight. So what is you're saying you think Volk gets it done?
Yeah.
And how do you think he does that? Like,
I think it'll be by decision.
By decision? You think it's going to go full 5 rounds?
I think it'll go a full 5 rounds. I mean, we know Ortega's a really tough guy. We saw that chin he had on him against Holloway. Holloway was going pedal to the metal there. And, I mean, he took a lot of shots in that fight. Yeah. But I think it goes a full 5. But, listen, like Ortega, it's a 5-round fight, right? Ortega has a good chance of getting him to the ground in 5 rounds, right? Like, if he can just get him to the ground, man, I really feel like he has a very good shot at winning.
I don't see Ortega having better cardio than Volkanovski, though. As a matter of fact, I might think that Volk has a better gas tank than Ortega, because I'm not sure of that, but like I know Ortega can go a full 5 rounds, but like Volkanovski went the 5 rounds with Holloway twice at because Holloway, very fast-paced fighter. So that was a fast pace. And to maintain that pace throughout 5 rounds with Holloway, like that's very impressive. You know what I mean? So we'll see. I definitely, the more we talk about it, the more I'm thinking that Volkanovski is going to win the fight. But I think you're right. I think it might go the full 5. There's a very strong chance that Ortega could get a submission or something in there. But yeah, we'll see.
I agree with you. Unfortunately, Volkanovski has an incredible gas tank. I don't know if you recall the last fight against Holloway, but he actually pretty decisively lost the first 2 rounds.
I think he lost the whole fight.
I thought he lost the whole fight too, but I don't think you'll deny, even if you thought Volkanovski lost, that it was if Holloway won, it was a like 3 rounds to 2. So Volkanovski, without a doubt, came back and won rounds 3 and 4 against Holloway, and then round 5, kind of up in the air. They gave it to Volk. I and Jason had it to Holloway, but I mean, we can't deny it. It shows that Volkanovski has an incredible gas tank.
100%, yeah.
Yeah, so actually this fight was supposed to be a little while ago, right? But Volkanovski actually got COVID-19 during that time, which has pushed the fight forward like almost like a full 6 months. And what makes this interesting, is COVID, right? So we don't know if that could potentially have an effect. We've seen it have an effect on some guys, other guys nothing. And the other factor is too, Volkanovski pretty consistently has been fighting like twice a year. So he'll fight like every 6 months. And he's been actually really consistent with that for the last like 3 or 4 years, and now it's actually been like a 14-month layoff for him. Do you think that'll have an effect on him?
Well, it could because like you're saying, he got COVID, and obviously that's going to have a physical effect on your physical health of your body, so recovering from that. But that being said, then some guys might benefit from a longer training camp. You know, you can refine what you've been working on a bit more, develop your game plan for that fighter a bit more. So I think there are pros and cons to both sides, but if you're Volkanovski and you have like your schedule and you like to fight every 6 months, like you'd think a change in that would probably not be the best, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying too, like in terms of having like a little layoff and some time. Obviously you needed the time to recover from COVID. If I had to guess, I don't think that'll be a factor. But I mean, I get what you're saying. He's kind of been like 6 months fight, 6 months fight. That's just kind of how it's been. And I don't know. I mean, I'm not really like a huge believer in ring rust, especially after only like 14 months. But I mean, it could really be a factor, right?
Yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see if that has an effect on him. So let's say Ortega does win and he wins by knockout. Or, okay, so he wins by stoppage.
Yeah,
do you think it's an automatic rematch?
I guess it kind of depends, because if Ortega just goes and dominates and like submits him with ease in the first round, no, I don't think it's an automatic rematch. But if it's even in like, say, the third round and it's been a close fight and Ortega just sneaks in a submission, like in that case, yeah, I think they give Volk the rematch. Because who else? Is there someone else in that division right now that really deserves that title shot that's waiting for that fight?
Immediately, the only guy's Holloway.
Right. And like Holloway is, I don't know if they're trying to rush him back up for the rematch with
Ortega?
Yeah, well, either of those guys, right?
I mean, I don't think they are with Volkanovski, because obviously on paper, Volkanovski beat him twice, which definitely is a major factor. But I mean, with Ortega, I mean, you can definitely sell that. And Holloway's like a pretty big fan favorite. So, I mean, I agree with you.
And like, yeah, actually considering the way the first fight went between Ortega and Holloway, and if they make that rematch with Ortega as the champ, like that'll be very interesting to see.
That would be really interesting.
I'd probably rather see that than then they could make, if they need to make the rematch with Volk, they could do it after that fight still.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't have to be immediate, but like I said, it still kind of depends on how that fight goes, right?
Yep.
Like, if Volk gets dominated, he'll probably have to win another fight or two before he can earn the rematch, but I don't really see that happening, to be honest with you. I think it's going to be a close fight either way. No matter who wins, I don't think it's going to be a one-sided or an easy victory for either guy.
I'm with you. This card is, just with regards to action fights, I think it's a great card. I just think there's so many fights on this card that are just going to produce fireworks. Like, just stylistically, the type of people we have fighting, obviously in that main card, Ortega and Volk. Volk's going to push the pace a lot. Ortega, we don't really necessarily know what we're going to get from him. He's sneaky with the submissions. Last fight we saw, he's actually sneaky with his striking too. He was throwing some really unconventional stuff and catching Korean Zombie. And obviously there's Nick and Robbie and a plethora more. But before we move on, so I think what makes this narrative a little more interesting too, although I don't love it, is so Volkanovski actually in his last fight against Holloway, like we were saying prior, it's pretty controversial whether he won. And I think he's been hearing a lot of shit about that for a while.
Really?
Yeah. And I have a feeling it might put a bit of a chip on his shoulder just with regards to showing who is the top man in that featherweight division. But I don't know. I think it makes it interesting. Do you think that's a non-factor, or do you think that's getting it to him? Do you think that's in his head?
Man, no matter what, at any point in your UFC career, like, no matter, like, look at what's happening with Conor McGregor and all these guys. It doesn't matter. People are going to be talking. People are going to be saying things. And if you really let it get to you, then like, I don't think you can. I think especially if you're the champion, man, everyone's going to have something to say about you that's negative, no matter what position you're in. You could be the most dominant champion ever, and somebody out there is going to find something negative to say about you, because that's just how people are. I can't explain that. But I don't think Volk's really going to let that get into his head, like, oh, they don't think I'm the champ. Like at the end of the day, like I said, I think Holloway won that fight between them. I think Holloway should be the true champion of that division. In my opinion, Holloway is the greatest featherweight of all time right now. But like, yeah, that being said, like, you can't take everything someone says and let it affect you. But even if he's fighting to, like, it is a championship fight. He's fighting to prove he's the championship. He's the champion of that division. So you got to come in being ready to prove that every time, regardless of what the scenario is. You know what I mean? Like,
I know what you mean. No, I agree with you. I think he's a pretty headstrong guy too. Yeah. I don't really see him being the guy where that gets in his head. It doesn't seem like he talks a lot of shit, and he's like I guess he's like a joking guy. He lets his mouth go sometimes, but I do think he's like a pretty headstrong guy. But I mean, it's hard to know, right? It's hard to know. You don't necessarily know what you're getting with that. I would have said that for Connor a few years ago. Doesn't seem like it right now, but we'll see.
Yeah.
You ready to move on?
Yeah.
So we've got in the co-main, we've got Valentina Shevchenko, the champ, versus Lauren Murphy. So the odds for this fight, are minus 1250 to plus 750 for Shevchenko.
And is this really the best fight they can make? Like,
no, I totally disagree with you. I actually think it's the perfect fight to make.
Really? Do you disagree with those odds?
No. Okay. No, but I mean, let's get real here. That women's division is lacking a lot of challengers for Shevchenko.
Yeah.
I mean, we thought Andrade might be that key challenger. She's a big, strong wrestler, might be able to go in and have her way with Shevchenko. Didn't go that way at all. And I mean, listen, Lauren Murphy, lucky Lauren Murphy, she's on a 5-fight run. She's 38.
I'm just going to say right now, I will be very shocked if she wins.
Yeah. No, honestly, I think it's a lot better of a fight than people think it is, though. Like Lauren Murphy, she's like a real badass. She's actually never been finished.
Okay.
Not
yet.
She's big. She's big. So she's been like 2 weight classes up.
Okay.
So she kind of like found her spot down here. She's rolling in this weight class. Like I said, she's on a 5-fight win streak, and I think it's a tougher fight for Shevchenko than people think. That being said, I am not at all saying that I'm picking Lauren Murphy, but I just think I think Lauren Murphy has like a really strong chin. I think it's gonna be really hard for Shevchenko to take her out, and she's good at making the fight messy. So I actually think it's going to be an interesting fight, and I think if anyone has a puncher's chance against Shevchenko, I think it's Lauren Murphy.
Well, that's good then. At least that sounds like they actually made a decent matchup, because not that I know a whole lot about the women's fighters in their division, but like looking at some of Shevchenko's previous fights, it's like did that girl even stand a chance against her? Like, why did they make this fight? Like, it's just a total domination. So, but like also Shevchenko is just really good.
Yeah. Oh, she's elite. Yeah. But I mean, it is interesting though. We've seen her have issues. I'm gonna say not major issues because she still ends up winning, but we've seen her have issues with people who, can get the fight to the ground or get into the clinch and make it a little bit messy. She had some issues fighting Jennifer Maia. That's the one I'm thinking of right now, where like Jennifer Maia was just like kind of getting up in her face, making the fight messy, not giving her space to work off her striking. But that being said, who's your pick to win this fight, Jason?
Definitely Shevchenko, but I mean, you made it a little more interesting for me. Like I said, I didn't know a whole lot. Like, now it sounds like this other girl has somewhat of a chance.
She definitely has a chance.
I'm still definitely going to pick Shevchenko 100%.
No, I am too. But that being said, like I was saying, I think Lauren Murphy's pretty mentally strong as well. Yeah, and I mean, I don't think she's going to go in there and roll over. So,
well, that's good.
And now let's get on to the what is it called? The fans main event or whatever. I've heard it called that. The fans main event. Nick Diaz versus Robbie Lawler. This is a rematch from, how long ago this fight was, Jason? Number one?
17 years, right?
I think it was 16 years. No, okay. I think it's like very close to being 17 years now.
Yeah, what was it like?
Yeah. It was so wait. It was
2004.
It was 2004.
I want to say
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. Never mind.
Which is ridiculous. Isn't that? Wait. How long has it been since Nick Diaz fought though?
6 years.
6 years. Yeah. Which is still a really long layoff.
Yeah, that's a long.
It's like longer than I've been watching the UFC. They're like around. Yeah, something like that.
You know what's hilarious too? So taken during their first fight, Robbie Lawler was 21, Nick Diaz was 20.
Damn, he was
now. I know, that's crazy, right?
Yeah.
Like Nick Diaz at 20 kicking ass like that. I didn't realize until I started looking into this fight. Like, dude, when he started kicking ass, he was young.
Yeah, that's
he
crazy.
was so young, bro. But now
what
Nick
am I
Diaz
doing?
Nick Diaz now 38.
Okay.
Robbie Lawler 39.
There we go.
That's so crazy, man. I love this though.
Remaking the fight, because that was a really good fight.
It was a sick fight.
You've seen it, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So like, hopefully it's similar again. But like, they're old now. Like that's crazy, and we have no idea. Like, there's a lot of factors coming into this. We don't really know what Nick Diaz brings to the table, having not fought in 6 years, right? Like, that's crazy.
I feel like it's ridiculous for anyone to feel like they can make like a really realistic prediction on this one. I mean, someone's gonna call it and be like, you guys suck. But like, what are we getting from Nick Diaz? We don't even know, man. Like, it's been 6 years.
Yeah, we have no idea, but we do know that Robbie has been losing some fights recently.
He has been, yeah. So Robbie's been. Sorry, did you have something else to say there?
I was just gonna say he hasn't necessarily been getting knocked out though.
No, not really. No, he's still a big, strong guy. He's still Robbie Lawler. He's not necessarily a contender at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And to be fair, I mean, he's kind of still just fighting elite fighters, right? Like, he's only fighting guys that will like get him out of bed. You know?
'Cause he's a big name. They're not gonna put him up against. I mean, he may have had some fights against maybe some like mid-ranked guys, but he's not fighting nobodies.
No, yeah, and he hasn't really. I don't think he's fought a mid-ranked guy for a little bit, right? And also he was saying too, he's like, he hasn't fought in a little bit, and he said, like, there's names like crossing his desk, and he's just not really interested.
Mm-hmm.
And then the name Nick Diaz comes up, and he's like, yeah, that did it for me. That's the one I want.
Nice.
Yeah. So the last time we saw Robbie Lawler was, I think it was 2020, and that was against Neil Magny. He's pretty high rated. I mean, if I'm being real, I think I would say he's like an elite gatekeeper. I'm pretty sure he's sitting at number 7.
Yeah.
Number 7 in middleweight, I think. No,
Mm-hmm.
welterweight. Welterweight, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think number 7 at welterweight. He's really good. He's not the most exciting fighter, but he's really good. Robbie also lost to RDA a little while ago. He lost to Ben Askren. Guys, we're talking about MMA Ben Askren. Calm your jets. And then his last win was against Donald Cerrone, but I mean, that's 2017 Donald Cerrone though. So it's not 2021 Donald Cerrone who's kind of
well, and a lot of those fights,
old.
like, you look at his opponents and it's like, that's like a really well-rounded opponent. Not saying that like,
try talking to the mic a little bit.
my bad, brother. But I'm just saying, I feel like Nick Diaz and Robbie Lawler, it's gonna be primarily like a striking battle.
It better be.
Like, we know Nick Diaz has his jiu-jitsu, but did we even see that in the last fight? Like, no, I think it was just both guys rocking each other for pretty much the whole time.
Yeah.
So that like makes it pretty interesting going in. Like, I think it's going to be a really good and interesting fight.
Mm-hmm.
But do you think the age is a factor? Do you think it's just going to be a quick knockout, or are we going to see like a dog fight?
Like the chin age? Maybe. Oh, that's an interesting question. It might be. It really might be. It's not like either of these guys are getting knocked out left and right, but I mean, at this point, you do kind of have to assume their chins aren't exactly what they were 16 years ago. So it definitely could be a factor, but I mean, so I guess I would favor Nick Diaz if that was a factor, since he's taken like 6 years off, right? He has a lot less mileage on that chin.
Yeah, definitely a lot less mileage on the chin. And people would say like, oh, since he hasn't been fighting, like, what has he been doing? Like, sitting around, like, smoking weed, like, party. Like, no, the dude's an athlete. He's been running marathons.
Well, I'm sure he's been doing that other stuff too.
Yeah, probably. But he's in tremendous shape. Like, he's been running marathons and all that stuff the whole time. So yeah, I actually probably would put my money on Nick Diaz going into this fight.
So we got some incoming news on this one, Jason. So actually, about a week ago, the fight was going to be at welterweight, so 170.
Okay.
It's now going to be at middleweight.
Really?
Yeah.
Why? Both
I'm not
guys
sure.
just didn't want to cut weight?
I think this is primarily coming from Nick Diaz's side. He wanted to move up to 85, and Robbie Lawler was game. So,
okay.
yeah, I guess they're moving up weight. There hasn't been all that much of an explanation about that, so it makes it interesting.
Yeah, that I actually wonder why, because I can see Nick Diaz beating Robbie Lawler and then just like randomly fighting Kamaru Usman or something for some reason, like for the belt. But
He is a Diaz.
that makes more sense. I don't know about him. Like, I don't think he's gonna get a Izzy fight or anything like that. Like,
No, yeah, I don't. That's tough.
or
That's
like, is
tough.
he trying to? I thought he was trying to come back into the welterweight division. Is that true, or is he trying to just stay at middleweight? Like, what is his plan? You probably don't know, right?
I don't know what his plan was, but no,
Okay.
I was under the same the same impression as you though. Like I thought he was going to try and step into those welterweight ranks, and I kind of think that would have made a little more sense for him. He's actually a pretty big welterweight.
Is he?
Yeah, I think he'd be pretty strong or pretty big and strong for welter, but I think he's a little small for middle at this point in his career.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, it doesn't really matter for this one fight because
No.
it's just like a iconic fight. It's a classic matchup between two legends. So do it at whatever weight. People don't really care.
Exactly.
But if you're trying to like come back and try and make a run for a title, you're going to have to pick a weight division. And for Nick Diaz, like, I don't know how big he is. I didn't think he was that big. I thought 170 was like a pretty good natural weight class for him. Obviously, you'd have to cut
I think so.
to that.
I
but-
think he's like I think 170 kind of favors him a little more than 185. Don't get me wrong. I think he can fight at 185, but like I just think at 170 he's actually big. He's got a reach advantage on a lot of guys.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying. Yeah. So who's your pick for this one? You're locking it in right now. Who you
I'm going to
got?
lock it in on Nick Diaz. I was going to ask, do you know what the
Yeah. So it's
what are the
actually
odds on
it's
this baby?
minus 120 to plus 100 for Robbie.
So it's close.
Yeah.
Oh, Robbie's favorited?
Yeah. Thoughts?
Probably just because he's been more active.
100%. Yeah. I think they kind of nailed it on the head with these odds. We just don't really know what we're getting from Nick Diaz.
Yeah.
We haven't seen Robbie fight in a fight like this for a bit either, where it's just going to be like an all-out brawl. Like Neil Magny's a pretty like strategic fighter. He'll take it to the ground when he needs to take it to the ground. But Nick Diaz, unless he's a whole different person, this fight's not going to the ground unless he rocks Robbie, sees a submission opportunity, and just jumps on it.
Yeah, I can see that.
But where was I going with that? Oh yeah. No, I think the favorite makes sense though.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
based on activity. Yeah.
Yeah, that does make sense. Although if I was a betting man, I'd probably put my money on Nick Diaz.
So you've got Nicholas Diaz winning this one.
Yes, sir.
Well, I'm gonna take the juxtapose on that one, Jason, and I'm gonna say Robbie Lawler's gonna win.
So you want to put some money on the line here?
Let's bet. You want to bet Pita Pit on it? Let's bet some Pita Pit. The winner has to buy the loser Pita Pit, and let's say a smoothie from there too.
I was thinking
That's pretty
too.
good.
I like those
That's pretty
smoothies.
good.
Yeah, we'll do it.
All right. I just honestly just based on activity, I'm taking Robbie. I think he's been a little more active, and we haven't seen him get really like knocked out either. Too, he has been losing, but they've been decisions. But at the end of the day, it's pretty marginal for me. I can really see this one going both ways. I'm not gonna be upset if I have to buy Jason Pita Pit, even
He's
though
gonna
I'm a bit
cry.
of a cheap bastard.
Yeah.
But I'm just looking forward to what is gonna be an amazing fight, and I salute the UFC for making this one.
Yeah, and I really like both guys. Like, they're both
Me too.
good dudes. Like, and I think there's like there's no beef coming into this fight, is there? It's all.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I mean, if nothing else, you have to respect both guys, right? They're both vets. They both done a lot for the UFC. And honestly, like, man, I feel like there's so many times when the UFC matchmakers get shit wrong, and this is one of those times where we come into the fight and they announce it, and I'm like, oh, they just got this one so right.
Yeah,
and I didn't even see it coming, but they nailed it.
No, yeah, this one's kind of came out of nowhere too. I'm like,
It did.
Oh my God, Nick Diaz is fighting this week.
Yeah,
What?
I know, it's great. I love it. So let's move on. The other fights we have on the main card, we're not going to talk too much about them. So we've got Curtis Blades versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik at light heavyweight. So this is actually a really interesting one.
Light heavyweight?
Oh, at heavyweight.
Yeah, I was gonna say, well, yeah, those guys are big.
Yeah, not at light heavyweight.
Okay.
No, but this one's interesting.
Yeah. Your classic striker versus wrestler matchup with Curtis Blades being your wrestler.
Yeah.
Rozenstruik being your more of your striking type of fighter. But
yep.
Both guys have been getting knocked out. Both guys got knocked out by Francis. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Had a couple tough goes.
Yeah, so Jairzinho's coming off a loss against Cyril Gane. Boring fight, decision towards Cyril Gane. And Curtis Blades is coming off that uppercut knockout against Derek Lewis. So they're both coming off losses. But I think I've got Curtis Blades on this one. I just see the grappling winning out on this. I don't think Jairzinho's takedown defense is necessarily anything to write home about. He's a kickboxer, so there's always a chance he's going to catch Curtis Blades coming in like Derek Lewis did. But I think Curtis Blades gets it done. We've seen a lot from him. He's beat some big guys. I mean, like to his own right, Jairzinho has as well. But I think Curtis Blades is going to get the win here.
Yeah, me too. Plus, I think there's more pressure on him coming into this fight, maybe because everyone was saying like, "Oh, this is your potential future champ," and then he just went and lost some fights, and it's like, like your Zeno kind of. I think he just came to the UFC not even too long ago, right?
No, but he has like a kickboxing background, so he had a bit of a career kickboxing as well, and he's pretty successful there.
Yeah, but I kind of see it the same way you do, whereas I think Curtis is going to have the more dominant wrestling. Probably, I don't think Rozenstruik possesses the same punching power that Derek Lewis does. So I don't really see.
I wouldn't say so.
I don't see him obviously he could catch him. Anybody could get knocked out at any point in any fight. But I do see Curtis Blades winning this one.
But to be fair, Rozenstruik does have crazy knockout power. He doesn't have Francis Derek Lewis knockout power, but he does have crazy knockout power. I mean, we saw what he did against Augusto Sakai in his last fight. He is a guy that will put people to sleep. So it's interesting. And but that being said, I'm locking in the pick. Me and Jason we're going Curtis Blades. My one concern in that regard is that Curtis Blades, like we've seen him do a few times, he falls in love with his striking a little bit. Yeah. Like he's a solid striker now, but I think he's got to win by takedowns. Yeah, that's the route to victory here. So yeah, we're locking it in. And the last one on the main card, we're not really going to talk about this, but just want to shout it out. It's a good one. It's Jessica Andrade versus Cynthia Calvillo. Good fight. I feel like if Calvillo can get the win, the UFC's kind of just like tuning this one so she can step into the next title shot against Murphy or Shevchenko. I mean, we'll see. I think they're being smart by putting it on the same card too. Like they just want to showcase these girls.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lock in a pick for that one. I
have literally no idea. I would just like, I don't know. I would, if I had to make a pick, I would just say Andrade based on literally nothing.
So other than these like main fights on the card that we've discussed, Jason, what other fights on this card are you looking forward to? What's the big one for you?
Oh, probably. Is this on the preliminary card?
This is the prelims right here.
Yeah, it's crazy that these guys are on the preliminary card. I'm looking forward to seeing Dan Hooker, and not necessarily looking forward to seeing Nasrat Haqparast. I don't really know why Dan Hooker got matched up with him. His last fight was the Michael Chandler fight, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of crazy how much that fight, like getting knocked out by Michael Chandler, his stock went from up here to like whoop down here fighting whoever Nakparast in friggin' prelims.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm still interested to see Dan Hooker come back because you were talking about it earlier before the podcast, and he had a really, really close fight with Dustin Poirier, who is probably considered to be like the true champ of that division right now.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone probably thinks he's going to beat Charles. I don't think it's going to be that easy, but he's probably the best guy in that division, him and Oliveira anyway.
Yeah.
So I have no idea how Dan Hooker is fighting this guy. Like, where's this guy ranked right now?
He's actually unranked, but he is...
See, what?
Yeah, I don't know. It might be a bit of a set for Dan Hooker, but I mean, to be fair, he's had some big knockouts. He's got a lot of power. It's definitely an interesting fight. I'm not sure what made the matchmakers want to make this fight, but I think it's an interesting fight. There's a lot of factors in this one. So for one, like you were saying, Dan Hooker, he's like still a household name, right?
At least put him on the main card. You know what I mean? Like.
Well, you know what? I think it's going to go in his favor this time, though. I think he's going to come in with a big chip on his shoulder. He's been hanging in the top 10 in his weight class for a little bit, and he's been a contender until now.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he's going to have a big chip on his shoulder. It's kind of like a split in the roads for him. I mean, he can go down and be one of those like top 15 guys, like between 10 and 15, or he can get a win and he can start fighting these elite ranked guys like he was fighting before. And I mean, yeah, like you said, he's like a split decision away from beating Dustin Poirier, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this guy's ridiculous. And that fight too, that would have been fight of the year if it wasn't for the ridiculous fight between Joanna and Weili Zhang. So I think he's coming in with a lot to prove, and I think he's gonna look like a monster in there.
Does he have to dominate to get back up? Like, if he has if he wins but just has a really close fight with an unranked fighter, does that still look bad on him, coming from being one of the top 5 ranked lightweights?
I suppose it's up to like what Nasrat looks like. I mean, if he comes in and he looks like a world beater, obviously the UFC sees something in him giving him this fight, unless they see the opposite, which would be they see him as a 10, which I'm not saying that necessarily, but
well, I doubt the UFC's trying to build up Dan Hooker that much. It's not like he's...
They might be.
Yeah, they could be. That's possible, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's got some crunch behind his name. Big New Zealand fighter. He's in Adesanya's camp. He actually almost didn't make it into the country for this one because of COVID in New Zealand, but he this week he just got his like work visa to come over and fight. So like it was this close. I was about to be upset. And across the cage, we've got Nasrat Haqparast, and I was telling you before the podcast, his mom actually just died like 2 weeks ago.
Damn, that sucks.
Yeah, no, so that's pretty sad, man. He's a solid fighter. So he's 13-3. He's 5-2 in his last 7.
Yeah,
he's 5-1 in the UFC. So he's actually he's kind of rolling in the UFC. And one loss too in the UFC was Drew Dober too, right? So okay. I mean, we know Drew Dober. He's definitely a solid UFC fighter. This guy's got cannons, and also like I don't know, like sometimes when we see fighters come in emotional like that, like we saw it with Cody Stamann when his brother died when he had that fight against Brian Kelleher. Sometimes those guys they come in emotional and they just have the fight of their life. So I mean, I don't like to look at this as like a fact, like his mom died, so like is he gonna fight better? Like that's pretty shallow.
Well, you got to think that's gonna have an effect on
it. Probably will,
100%.
Right? And I mean, kudos to him too. I mean, it happened like literally 2 weeks ago, and he's still going ahead with the fight. So
yeah, a lot of like that's pretty soon. A lot of people might not want to fight right away. Like that's crazy.
Yeah.
So good on him for that,
for sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, also I want to point out too, I want to give Dan Hooker some credit. So he tweeted at Nasrat after it happened, and he like gave his condolences and stuff. Super nice move, I think. Honestly, for me, I know people like to see shit talking, and I do too, but for me, when you see a move like that, it gives me a little more respect for the guy, because I mean, at the end of the day, you have to realize, I mean, listen, go into the cage and you got to want to rip that guy's freaking esophagus out, right? That's cool.
Yeah.
I get that. But outside the cage, you're basically coworkers, right? You do the same job. You're competitors, but I mean, you're in the same sport, right? Nobody understands it like you understand each other, right? So a lot of respect to Dan Hooker for that. And take notes, Conor McGregor. Take notes. Respect for dead relatives. Yeah. Take notes.
Like, that's how it should be. Like, you can't be, especially right after it happened. If Dan Hooker came out and was like, "Yeah, screw you, man," you're like, okay, you're a real scumbag, man. But yeah, it's nice to see some respect sometimes. Yeah, no,
I like it. And let's lock this in right now, Jason. Fight of the night. Let's make the call nice and early. There's an easy one. There's a layup, but I'm curious to see who you're gonna go with for this one.
Well, I hope it's Nick Diaz and Robbie Lawler. I would hope. Could be. It could be. I'm not even gonna say the Ortega fight, because when would a title fight ever be fight of the night? I don't even know if that's a thing. Like,
it's a thing, but it has to like blow the socks off the rest of the card, or the rest of the fights on the card, like the Joanna like Weili Zhang fight. It has to be something like that.
Mm-hmm. Right? Okay. Well, I'm gonna go out and say Nick Diaz, Robbie Lawler. That's got to be fight of the night. The first fight was one of the greatest fights of all time. So
takes the layup.
Let's hope history repeats itself.
He takes the layup. Takes the easy out. Listen, no. To be fair though, I hope it is.
Yeah,
I hope it is. I was kind of inclined to say the Naz Harat versus Dan Hooker one, but I mean, at this point, I think I'm gonna go off the books. I'm gonna go the prelim main fight, which is Marlon Moraes, number 6 at bantamweight, versus Merab Dvalishvili, who is somehow number 11 at bantamweight. I just think this is such a big fight for both of these guys. Like Merab. So Merab's won 6 in a row now, which is sick. And these guys aren't even cans either, right? Like he's beat like Cody Stamann, ranked, Casey Kenny just outside being ranked, John Dodson, who I mean at the time he was like on the decline a little bit, but I mean primetime John Dodson, he's very legit. He was like him and TJ back in the day. For those of you who don't know, that was a big fight, big notch in TJ's belt. But he doesn't have that like signature win yet. Merab doesn't have that signature win, and I think this is a big opportunity for him to just come in and be like I'm here, because he's looked so good in his fights. He's just dominated, and like beating the number 6 guy and a guy who's fought for the belt before would just like, that would be a huge notch in his belt, man. And I think he's gonna come in and put on a real performance.
I think the fact that Marlon has fought for the belt before, like you said, I think that's like, if you beat someone who is a title contender, like that's like, that means like you're in there with the best guys, like you can do it. So that would be a huge notch in his belt.
Yeah. And on the other hand too, like let's not take Marlon Moraes out of the equation here, right? So he's on a skid. He's lost 2 in a row, and 3 of his last 4, unfortunately. So that doesn't really help my case here. But lest we forget, he's a badass.
All of those losses would have been against like top 5 guys.
They're all against badasses, man. It's literally Henry Cejudo, Rob Font, Corey Sandhagen, and now he's got to stop a surging prospect like Merab. But I mean, I feel like this is kind of an opportunity for Marlon Moraes also to like show out and be like I'm still here, like I'm still legit. And I think people, if you know the MMA pretty well, you know how good Merab is. Like, you know he's an upcoming name, a name that no one can pronounce, albeit, but he is a big upcoming name. And I mean, if Marlon Moraes were to defeat him, I actually think he might be able to get a fight up in bantamweight. Like, bantamweight's pretty messy right now. Like, TJ looking for the title fight. We got Sandhagen. Don't know what's going to happen with him next. Font, don't know what's going to happen. And we're still waiting on the Aljamain Sterling versus Piotr Jan fight. So I think if he can win, like, we really might be able to sell that Jose Aldo versus Marlon Moraes too, because actually a couple years ago, Marlon Moraes has a win over Jose Aldo, and Aldo never got it back on him. So that's a potential.
That was a pretty close fight, right?
Yeah. And I mean, Aldo's coming off a big win too, right? But
Aldo's been looking good recently, I think.
Yeah. No, he had a really. Khabib didn't say that. Khabib said he doesn't think Aldo has a chance of like coming back and being a close title contender, which is fair.
Yeah.
But I mean, let's not get ahead of ourselves. My pick for this one is still going to be Merab. I just think he has too much momentum behind him.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's like a too well-rounded fighter, and I think Marlon Moraes' chin is edging on glass. It's not so there anymore.
Okay. Well, I know you were saying previously that you thought that Merab was like he's gonna be a title fighter one day.
I definitely think I think at this point he's already good enough to be like a legitimate title contender. That division is just so freaking stacked that like he just hasn't made it there, and people have been ducking him too. Like that, nobody wants that fight.
Right. So yeah, based off of that, I mean, Marlon's really good, but I can't really make a pick, to be honest. Like I haven't even seen that much of Merab to say.
Yeah.
But I hope it's a good fight regardless.
So who do you think? Do you want to pick performance of the night, guys? Do you want to do that? Or? It's kind of hard to say right now, but
yeah,
let's take a swing at it.
Yeah. Well, man, for some reason, every time I just go right to the biggest fights of the night. Like,
well, no, those are the most fun ones to pick. Right?
Yeah.
Like, are you gonna go all the way down and be like, you know what?
Carl Robinson.
I think Martin Sano is gonna have the fight of the night.
Yeah.
His 4-2 record really shows me that he's an elite fighter. It's funny. What if he ended up being champ at some point?
Oh man.
No, he doesn't have a picture on there. That's why I picked him.
Doesn't even have a picture. But anyway, yeah. So, well, what's gonna get performance of the night? If Ortega has like a crazy submission, or maybe if Nick Diaz or Robbie Lawler get like a crazy knockout, that's what I could see happening.
Yeah.
But anything could happen. It could end up anywhere. But that's what I'd like to see. I've been saying it for this entire podcast. I want to see a really good fight between Nick Diaz and Robbie Lawler. I want to see a crazy knockout or some kind of bonus in there.
Yeah.
Whatever, man.
So you're taking either of those guys? What's your pick?
Let's go with that fight, the Nick Diaz and Robbie Lawler fight.
Oh no, I said performance of the night. Like that's still like an individual fighter. Yeah.
Probably Nick Diaz.
You got Nick Diaz.
I have to pick one fighter
that makes sense.
Who I think is coming back from a 6-year layoff. He wants to show that he's still good. He's got to do something cool, man.
Yeah.
He's got to do that, some kind of cool performance, get that bonus.
That's a good pick, though. If he wins, I can't see him not getting performance of the night, you know? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, just the way the Diaz bros fight, where they're high-tempo striking looks so sick. The showboating's there, which makes things fun. Just like weird ass antics, like lying down against Anderson Silva.
Yeah,
that's the last time he fought in the UFC too. Right? No, but that's a good pick, honestly.
Yeah. Ooh. Real quick, so if Nick Diaz wins this fight, like what after? Just real quick. I know I said like they could pump him up to a Usman fight, but
I don't know if we're gonna go there.
He probably just has to fight another legend, or we'll see what happens. We'll just let this fight happen first, and then we'll see what happens.
No, that would be. There's a lot of interesting directions you can go with that.
Yeah,
we'll see. I feel like I don't even know Nick Diaz anymore, right? Because he's kind of been out of the press eye for a little bit. I mean,
fair enough.
Like he walked into like a pretty sick fight. But I don't know if he's the same as like Nate Diaz, who will like only take like top 5 guys, right? So
yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah. And just out of 10, how high are you ranking this card, Jason?
Oh man, it's got to be good. Like just with the Nick Diaz fight and the Ortega fight, like everything else. Not even considered. That's like an 8 out of 10. So we got some other good fights. So at least an 8 out of 10, I'm gonna say.
Yeah, you're going 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go, man. I'm going higher. I just think
It could even be higher.
I just feel like this card has like obvious it's it's got everything for me. It's got Brian Ortega. That's like a top 5 favorite guy for me. Really gonna be getting behind him. B, we've got obviously that fight of the night, the one like the climax of the card. It's gonna be a great fight. I'm calling it now. I think the co-main is really going to perform a lot better than people think. I think it's going to be actually, I don't know if I'm going to say a close fight, but I think Lauren Murphy's durability is going to do a lot for that fight. And then obviously we go to the fan favorite fight, right? We got Nick Diaz, Robbie Lawler. That's a no-brainer. Obviously that's going to be a great fight. But I also think there's some sleepers on there. I think Curtis Blades versus Jairzinho could be good. Mm-hmm. And I feel confident that Jessica Andrade versus Cynthia Calvillo is going to be a good fight. Those are both exciting fighters. And then, like we were saying on the prelims, like we have somehow we have Merab versus Marlon Moraes on the prelims. And we have Dan Hooker versus Nasrat Hakparast on the prelims. So, like, how can this card not be, like,
that's like
ridiculous
for the prelims? Like, that's some big fights for the prelims. So, that's really good. Time. Yeah. So, what are you saying? Like a 9 out of 10? Like, what do you...
I'm going to go...
It could be.
I'm going to go 9.2 out of 10.
Wow, you're getting...
I'm going high, man.
Real precise. Okay.
No, but I mean, it's this just like this card is, though. Like, even we go down a little further for, like, the deep cut guys. Like, these other fights on the prelims, like this guy Shamil Abdurakimov, that was awful. I know that's bad pronunciation. He's, like, pretty high ranked. I think he's like number 7 at heavyweight or something. Chris Dawkins is number 9 or 10.
Okay.
And then Roxanne Modafari, that's a ranked fighter too. I'm not sure about Talia Santos. But yeah, no, like this is a freaking deep card.
Okay. Yeah. No, I'm excited for this one. I actually am.
Whew. 8, 9.2. That's where we're going. UFC 266. Fire, my boy. Let's talk about last weekend. Triller. Chaos. A lot of bullshit.
Donald Trump.
This card had a little bit of everything. Most of those things I didn't want to see.
Yeah. Such a weird promotion, man.
Oh, like, it's awful.
It's a freaking circus.
Man, the worst part, I'm glad this wasn't one of those events that I like sat down on my Saturday night and I was like, let's watch this Triller card. It was like I was about to go out that night and I was like, oh dude, Anderson Silva's about to fight. Like, we got to see this, right? So turn it on for that one. We're not going to talk about anything else. I don't give a shit about either of any of the fights on the card other than the top two.
Don't even know what else happened.
Yeah. So no, like you turn it on, right? And then it's just, it's Anderson Silva versus Tito Ortiz. And you already know what's going to happen in that one, man. Tito missed weight too. He's talking the whole like fight month. He's like, oh, like I'm going to try as hard as I can not to miss weight and stuff. To be fair, he's a huge guy. So
yeah,
I don't know how Anderson got him to like agree to go down to that weight. I guess Anderson's like the A side of the deal though. So he's like, okay, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, he got paid. I mean, at the end of the day, I would be pissed if I spent months cutting 40 pounds off my body to go into a ring and get knocked out in 10 seconds, but whatever.
He lost part of his purse too because he came in overweight.
Yeah, that would happen.
Yep. So I mean, I think you guys all know what happened. Basically, they just, like, Anderson didn't really do anything. He didn't break a sweat. He went to the corner, a little bit of rope and dope, got hit slightly a couple times maybe, and then just like slipped a punch, just hit Tito, hit him again. Tito's down, fight's over.
It didn't even look like he hit him that hard.
No, but I mean, let's give credit where credit's due. We're talking about 46-year-old Anderson Silva. He's still slanging hands like that.
Yeah,
you love to see it. You love to see it. That's the one thing that happened that night where I watched it and I was legitimately like content and happy. And then that contentment didn't really last all that long because then after that I'm like, oh, okay, get to watch the main card, right? Nope. the musical performance in between.
Yeah, I don't know why they do that every time.
Oh, it's a weird
and it was
promotion.
like this like weirdo freaking guy from like some European like weirdo like dancing around like singing. I was like, this is just horrible. Like
Yeah, no, it's funny.
but whatever, man. Like,
Oh yeah, no, it's pretty funny, man. It's pretty funny. I don't like how they do that stuff. And then Tito, you hear he called out after the fight. Tito Ortiz made a call out after he got knocked out.
after you got knocked out in 3 seconds.
Called out Logan Paul after that. He said, "We both lost our last fights." So
Okay, I'm not even. That
don't say
mad.
okay.
Whatever.
Oh,
I don't care if Logan Paul wants to fight Tito Ortiz.
I don't care either. But it's just like. Man, like you got knocked out in like 44 seconds by Anderson Silva, who wasn't even sweating, and then Logan Paul, not to pump his tires too much, he did go 8 rounds with like arguably the best boxer of all time in Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Yeah,
it's kind of a weird one.
I don't really think Tito is in a position to make a call out after being knocked out in the first round. Who even gave him the mic? Like, what is this?
Yeah, I don't know.
Anyway, I don't want to see Tito fight. I don't care about Tito.
I mean, shit, maybe he'll be like a 10 for Logan Paul though. Like,
Well, he looked horrible against Silva.
yeah, he's probably, if he fights Logan Paul, who do you favor in that fight?
Honestly, based on the Silva fight, Logan Paul.
I'm taking Logan Paul like 10 out of 10 times there, to be honest with
I
you.
don't even think Logan's that good though. I just think Tito's old and
Oh, I have no idea how good Logan is. I mean, the Floyd Mayweather fight
was
I
weird.
mean, it's just a weird spectacle, right? I honestly credit to Logan Paul on that one. We're not going to go too deep in there, but I thought he looked pretty good for what it was. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, he survived in there 8 rounds with Floyd Mayweather. That's got to say something, right?
No, yeah, 100%. That is a huge accomplishment. Even just boxing Floyd Mayweather, like he's probably the best boxer of all time. So, or he's at least up there, like 100%.
Without a doubt, yeah.
Yeah, that gives you a lot of experience and a lot of things to go off of. I think Logan Paul would probably crush Tito in a boxing match.
Yeah, probably.
So, yeah.
So what's funny after the Anderson Silva Tito Ortiz fight as well, and bro, Anderson Silva's such a baller. So after the fight, actually, so they both happen to be on the same plane going back to LA, I think, right? And Tito Ortiz put this on his like Instagram story. So he's saying his girlfriend, he said the plane company messed up and his girlfriend didn't get a seat in first class. So Anderson Silva gave her his first class seat.
Really?
Yeah, and it's funny too because it's like Tito was sitting in first class instead of her. Too,
Why
right?
wouldn't Tito just give his girlfriend
Yeah, exactly.
his seat and he can go to coach?
Oh, and it's funny too because like isn't that, man, he's getting like fully alphaed by like Anderson Silva too. He's like oh yeah, you can have my first. Oh, I can't do an Anderson Silva impression, but he's like literally just gives her the first class seat after two. Like,
Man,
what a goat, man. He's just so chill after that win too. He didn't even crack a smile.
I love Silva.
Yeah.
He's such a good dude.
Yeah. Just stoked to see that, man.
But what did you think of the main event of this Triller
So,
fight circus?
The main event that Jason's talking about is Vitor Belfort against a 58-year-old Evander Holyfield. I don't want to talk about this one. So they actually had to move the fight from New York to Florida because initially it was supposed to be Oscar De La Hoya against Vitor Belfort, but last minute Oscar De La Hoya got COVID, right? So they slotted in Evander Holyfield, who I don't really think had been training for that.
He was preparing for a fight.
No, but his fight had got canceled a few months ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I don't know if he was still really training, but no, they like New York's legislation would they wouldn't license this fight, so they moved it to. Where do you think they moved it to, Jason?
They moved it to Florida.
They moved it to Florida, of course.
Florida doesn't care.
Yeah, Florida gives zero shits about old men getting hurt.
Yeah.
Oh,
They're like, oh yeah, like you agree to fight, we don't care if you're like 80 years old. You can fight here. Like, But whatever, save the card, I guess.
Oh no, it didn't save the card.
It was still like it's such a it's horrible actually.
That was tough to watch, man. And I like going into you're like okay, so we've got juiced up Vitor Belfort versus probably juiced up Evander Holyfield too, if we're being honest. Like,
yeah, but the
he
dude
should be on juice. He's like basically 49. He's like a few weeks away from being or 59. Sorry, he's a few weeks away from being 59.
Yeah,
and like, man, he looked about 59 in there too.
Yeah,
if we're being honest, I don't want to talk too much shit about him, but like. Did you see he swung for Vitor and he missed him and he just like fell over kinda. Yeah. And at that point you're like, oh
that
no,
right at that moment I was like, oh no.
Oh no.
Bad. And then
hit the brakes, big boy.
Yeah. And then Vitor obviously just knocks him out after.
Yeah.
I don't know why he thought like dude, yeah, you knocked out a 60-year-old man. Like, good for you. He's talking like he's like the greatest of all time after like screaming. It's like, man, just shut up.
I know. That definitely did not make me like Vitor any more than I did going into that. No, tough to watch. So, yeah, he just goes crazy. He calls out Jake Paul. He's like, Jake Paul, if you don't fight me, all your fans will become my fans. It's like, nah, G, that's not how the internet works.
No.
Bro, Jake Paul's fans don't know who you are. Who's this old Brazilian dude?
Yeah, this weirdo.
And he called out Canelo too. He said if Canelo doesn't fight him, he has no balls and stuff. Like,
he's clearly just trying to get money fights.
Yeah, the steroids they're going to his skull.
Yeah, a little bit of roid rage in there.
Yeah, that pissed me off, man. I didn't like that at all.
Yeah, Vitor's a little bit of a scumbag.
It does seem like it a little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, you're competing in a sport against other athletes, and you're using performance-enhancing drugs. Like, yeah, you're
presumably.
It's Vitor, man. Vitor is 100% on roids.
Juice to the gills.
In the UFC, before the doctors would like prescribe testosterone replacement therapy to the fighters as a way to get around the testing, but obviously they figured that out. But that's what Vitor was doing when he fought in the UFC, and he was 100% on steroids in there, kicking dudes' freaking heads off. So yeah, he's a scumbag, man. Like, but yeah.
So what do you think happens if Oscar De La Hoya had stayed in this fight?
Probably, I don't know. I don't know a lot about Oscar, but I've heard that he's just kind of been doing coke and like not a whole lot for the past couple of years. So I feel like juiced up Vitor probably would have just knocked out De La Hoya. But then again, I don't know. He actually used to be a boxer, at least. Like,
so did Evander.
But I mean, De La Hoya is not like 58 years old, and Vitor's not a boxer, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, although actually, and. He had good hands, though. He has really good hands.
Vitor?
Yeah, back in the day, he was a really good striker.
Fair enough.
And you know what the kicker of this whole event was? All these fights, exhibitions.
What?
Yep.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's because they didn't tell anyone.
How is that a pay-per-view?
Because it's not. They just sold it, not letting anyone know that the fights were exhibitions, but they were. Yeah, so it doesn't go on anyone's records. So
Triller's... What even is Triller, man? Like, what is going on?
There's some... The company was actually initially going to be something else. I don't remember exactly what it was. And then they transitioned into, fight promotion, like song, artist, guest, mix and mash of all this bullshit.
Yeah, really weird, but all right.
And then we also had like a regular commentator booth. I didn't listen to a word of that, obviously, because why would you, when Donald Trump Jr., Junior Dos Santos, and Jorge Masvidal was the other commentating booth. So, I mean, like I said before, I'm gonna be totally transparent. Didn't really watch many of the fights. I watched the last two fights, like. Why watch other stuff? But I mean, it was pretty funny. Pretty funny. It's got Donald Trump talking on there for a while.
Yeah, I mean, they got to give you some, like they know that the fights are not going to be worth paying for, so they got to give you some kind of entertainment value in there. Just put Donald Trump and Jorge Masvidal next to each other and see what happens.
That's so funny. He was talking about the Ben Askren knockout too. He's like, I was there, and you like need that guy in the face. And Jorge's like, it was just such a weird like interaction between like the hood badass UFC fighter and then Donald Trump.
Yeah, that is super weird.
Did you hear the part too? So Donald Trump he's like talking to an interviewer, and the interviewers, and he's like, I've known every one of these fighters for a long time, and they're great. He's like, Anderson Silver.
I don't even know his name. Wow.
I died, man.
That's funny.
But then, honestly, like the best Donald Trump clip from that weekend was actually leading up to the fight, where he like called into the press conference, right? So he's just like talking on the phone. They're all sitting up on the stage, and he's like, they're like, Donald Trump, if you had to fight someone, who would you fight? He goes, I'd fight Joe Biden, and he's not making it out of the first round.
That's hilarious. That's something he would say out.
Oh yeah, that killed me. That was pretty electric. I can't lie.
I'd pay for the pay-per-view for that one.
Oh my god. Either they'd both die of exhaustion, or Joe Biden would die.
Hey man, I'm not mad at it. Whatever.
Let's not get too political here.
Try and keep the politics out of it.
The other recent news too. So we've got some more Paul news. What's new, right? So him and Jorge are actually going back and forth. Jake Paul and Jorge Masvidal, because I guess since Tyron and Jorge were like, they're kind of like part of the same camp, or they were during their MMA careers. He picked Tyron to win that fight, which is weird because he was like, he was training Jake Paul for the Ben Askren fight.
Jake Paul just reached out to him. As I'm talking about it, but that fight's never going to happen between Jake Paul and Masvidal. Dana White will not allow it. Well, Masvidal is under contract with him, so it's like, these guys can talk all they want, but that's not a realistic fight. That's not something that's going to happen, I don't think.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but no, you're probably right. Although, man, I think like in the dream world, right? I think that would be like a really nice progression for Jake Paul. I wouldn't pick him to win that one, but I think like, obviously Jorge Masvidal is a legit striker, so it would be a good one. But anyway, moving forward, the other thing I forgot to mention about that Triller event. So Triller actually they have some legitimate fighters. They have some boxers who are signed to like a couple promotion deals, right? But did they promote any of their fights? No.
Which is weird.
They promoted the next big upcoming fight. It's a couple of hard ass people, a couple of badass men. We got Ja Rule
what
versus Fat Joe.
What is going on, man?
People are making money. That's what's going on. Come on.
Jesus Christ.
Come on. And then the other big news, I'm sure you guys have heard every other media outlet talk about it. We got a little showdown between Conor McGregor and Machine Gun Kelly. And then after they pretended they didn't know who each other were for some reason, they both were like, oh, I don't know who that is.
What?
No, I know. I hate how celebrities do that. They're like they both in like separate interviews. They're like, I don't even know who that guy is. Like,
oh yeah, I saw Connor say that. He's like, I don't really know
come on,
him,
dude.
Like man, you were asking for a picture with the guy. You know.
Actually, I don't think that's what happened.
Whatever.
I think he wanted a picture with Megan Fox. That's what I've heard.
That makes a lot more sense, actually.
I mean, yeah, but like.
And then MGK was like, no, you can't have a picture.
I think so.
And Connor just like, why is he just start trying to fight people?
I don't know, man.
Shows, though. That's not
it's
a really
bad look.
It's really bad.
He's walking around with his little cane too.
Yeah, like man, you're still you have a broken trying to
bad look,
fight people. I don't know, award show.
It's not other fighters either. It's not like you're at like a UFC
not a weigh-in.
Yeah, exactly. Like, not a good look, man. Although actually, Michael Bisping had an interesting take on this. So his take was that it actually had something to do with the type of like meds or painkillers Conor's got to be on with his like big leg surgery, right? because he was saying, obviously he's former UFC fighter, so he's like, he's had injuries like that. He's had surgeries, like they'll put you on stuff, right? And he's like, yeah, like I get pretty erratic when I was like on the stuff they prescribe me. Like you get like aggressive.
Yeah, fair enough.
So that could be something.
Yeah, Connor's. I would not be surprised if that was a factor here.
Yeah, because this is a little out there, even for Conor McGregor, right?
Yeah,
and that says a lot, right? But
yeah, for sure. Yeah. Plus, like he's been doing all sorts of weird stuff recently. Like I just have no idea what's going on with him. He's high on drugs. He's just angry about stuff. I don't know.
So another thing we got going on this weekend. I don't know if you saw it. So Dylan Dennis just got arrested and like choked out by a bouncer. But we're not going to talk about that because it's Dylan Dennis. We don't really give a shit. But anyway, he was also talking to our boy, the maniac of the UFC, Sean Strickland.
Yeah, that guy is a maniac.
Oh, listen to this too. So he Dylan Dennis, he's talking shit to Sean Strickland, and I'll read this off for you guys. This is in the DMs. So Dylan Dennis says, "Little boy couldn't take the heat, deleted his post, never come at the king." So I guess Sean Strickland had deleted something he put on Instagram. So Sean Strickland responds, "I don't know if you're joking or not. Like, I'd kill you. Not metaphorically speaking. Clearly, I don't want to go to prison. But if me and you met up and I had one free pass, I'd take your soul. I'd show you your own blood before I turned your mind off for good. It would bring me great joy to take your life with my bare hands. Again, I'd never do it or threaten you, but you understand that for me, you're just a baby lamb put on this earth to be eaten. You understand this, right? You're prey." So it's funny too because he's got like lines in there and you're like, he's just like checking the boxes so he can't get sued for this.
Literally like this is not a threat.
Yeah, no, he literally continues. He goes, "Again, this isn't a threat. Clearly, I'd never do this. I'm just making a point that you're like a baby lamb to me. The fact you're not food is a testimony to civilization that has been created in such a way where you're able to walk this earth as a lamb, pretending to be a wolf with impunity." Jeez. Odd thought. So this guy's like, oh man, I don't even know what to say.
You got really into it there.
He got really into it too, and I love how he fully clears out his thoughts too. It's not even just like, "Oh, you're shit. Like, I hate you."
Yeah.
He's like, he really gets in there, you know?
Pretty weird.
I know. No, I love Sean Strickland.
Yeah.
This guy kills me.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
This guy absolutely kills me.
That dude's a potential psychopath. Like,
oh my God. He's a nutter.
Yeah.
He's a nutter. And I'm really looking forward to his fight against Luke Rockhold coming up.
Me too.
I'm looking forward to hearing those guys talk more shit to each other too.
They do not like each other, no.
No, not at all. Moving on, guys. So you hear about Francis being on Jackass?
No, I didn't actually.
So you know what he's doing on Jackass?
Punching guys.
Close. That's actually correct, but where is he punching them, Jason?
In the nuts.
Yep.
That was literally.
That's pretty good.
That's just based off seeing other Jackass clips. Like, what else would you have Francis doing? Like, what are you gonna have Francis doing on Jackass? Punching dudes in the nuts?
that's pretty impressive though. Like, there could have been other stuff. Yeah, that's exactly what he's doing. And apparently, they actually have some other UFC guys on there. I think Ortega's on there for a little bit. They got a couple other guys, but yeah, Francis is full power punching dudes in the nuts.
That's not safe.
No, not at all.
What?
I know. How much would you have to be paid to let Francis Ngannou full power punch you in the nuts?
I don't know. How much does it cost to get a new pair of nuts?
Yeah, that's the question.
I'd want at least 3-4 times that so I could get a new pair of nuts and then have some money in the pocket as well, you know what I mean? But yeah, that's a tough one.
Yep. No, but that's gonna be interesting. Looking forward to seeing that. Yeah, and we'll scroll to our last little things here. New guy coming into the UFC. I don't know if you heard about this. So Alex Pereira is coming into the UFC. Yeah, you heard about that, eh?
Yeah, I've seen his or seen the stuff revolving around him and Adesanya.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, this guy Alex Pereira, he's a Brazilian former kickboxer. So he was kickboxing when Israel Adesanya was kickboxing, and they've actually fought twice before. First fight, Alex Pereira beat him by decision. Second fight, Alex Pereira actually knocked him out too.
Only guy to ever knock out Adesanya.
Yeah, which is crazy.
And he's coming into the UFC now.
Yeah, so he just signed with the UFC. He's 3-1 in his MMA career, which is, I mean, it's not bad, right? Yeah. But I mean, it's interesting, man, because when he knocked out Izzy, we're talking about like 12-ounce gloves too, right? We're not talking about the frickin' little like UFC gloves, right? No, so this guy's got some serious. He's got a serious punch. He's packing a punch, boys. Yeah.
But I mean, to do well in the UFC, you have to build the rest of your game around that. You can't just get to that title fight based off one punch. But hopefully, I mean, Izzy came into the UFC from kickboxing, and he's done relatively well when you consider his takedown defense and the improvement he's made in that kind of areas. So we'll see. I'm sure this guy has the best trainers and stuff around him, and if we get to see him fight Adesanya again, that would be the narrative going into that fight is ridiculous.
That's a crazy.
When have you ever had some guy coming in to a fight against Adesanya who's beat him twice? Like that's
never
unseen. Yeah.
No, it's impossible other than this guy because no one's ever beat him twice. No, that's ridiculous. But I mean, obviously, he's gonna have to build his way up a little bit in the UFC first.
I just hope he does really well, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see him build up and get that fight. Obviously, I want to see Izzy win, but like, man, that's definitely an interesting narrative, and that middleweight division too is getting pretty freaking dry right now. So
get some new blood in there.
Exactly. Yeah. We appreciate you watching. I'm Aaron. This is Jay. This is Beat Him to the Punch with Aaron J. Obviously. Got any closing statement to make, Jason?
Nah. Tune in next time. Watch the fight. Hope it's a banger. It's probably going to be a banger.
It's going to be a banger. Yeah, dude. Let me know what you guys think, too. Like, tweet at me. Because, like, I'm really interested to see, like, how hard this card's actually going to be. Because if this card's not ridiculous, I'm going to be disappointed, to be honest with you.
Oh, yeah. You set high expectations.
I set the bar's, like, up here for me. But... either the fight card has to be up here and I'll be super happy, right? Fight card actually hits the level I want it to. Your boy's happy. Or, you know what? The fight card could be complete shit and Ortega gets a win. I'm still like up here in terms of happiness.
Okay, fair enough.
So we'll see, but let's hope for both. You know, guys, fingers crossed we might get both.
Yeah.
I think Ortega's got a good shot. So that's all I have to say. Woo.
Let's get it.
Ayo, peace out.
Adios.